Hello, investors. Like we continue with the second session of this part two of this uh, topic of how our economy works. So, we had stopped our last session with how credit works and all other related transactions, debt cycles, etc. So, credit sets into motion a series of predictable series of events that will happen in future. So credit is different from money, of course. To cite an example, let's go back to our lemonade shop. So if you go buy a lemon juice from the shop paying ready cash, hence the transaction is over as soon as you have the lemon juice and pay in cash. But if you don't afford to pay for the lemon juice immediately, then you can buy it on credit. You promise to pay the amount for lemon juice in future to the lemonade guy. So you and the lemonade guy creates an asset and a liability there. Hence a credit is created out of thin air. Once in future, as you pay off the debt by paying the money to the lemonade guy, the credit disappears as the debt is repaid. So on a broader level, most of the people call as money is credit. As I speak now in 2021, as on May, total amount of credit in India is around 2.54 trillion US dollar as against actual currency in circulation of around 0.33 trillion US dollar. It's like around 11% only is the actual cash, rest all is pure credit. So I know that this number would be really interesting for you, but this is the fact. So as I explained earlier, only with credit there can be increased spending, though it's through borrowings and not by actual productivity. So in an economy with credits, it grows faster due to more spending, even with even without more productivity in a short run, but certainly not over the long run, leading to cycles. Because as I already explained, on a longer run, productivity really matters. Credit isn't bad end of the day. It's only it only turns bad if it finances overconsumption beyond the capability of repayments by the borrower. Credit is good if it finances a business which utilizes the debt to grow the business by increasing its productivity and revenue, and hence creates more profit and also equally repays the debt. But if the credit is taken for a non-productive item like buying a car, it actually doesn't create income to pay back the debt, though the car manufacturer gets paid. So I'm not telling that you should not buy a car, but from a credit point of view and repayment point of view and debt closure point of view, investing or getting a credit or debt for funding a business and generating profit and repaying the debt and closing the transaction is more desirable compared to a dead asset of car which doesn't generate any revenue. To again give you an example of credit cycle, I borrowed 1,000 rupees from person A. My income say is 900 rupees. Now I will spend 1,000 rupees, and 1,000 rupees is an income to the third person B. Now person B borrows 1,100 rupees on credit as he earns 1,000 rupees. Now if you extrapolate this chain, you can see the economy rises up in a upper growing curve. But as I explained, Whatever you buy now on credit is actually reducing your spending capability in future, thus creating a downgrowing curve in the future. So as the borrowing creates cycles, such cycles are called short-term debt cycles. As the economic activity increases, we see an expansion. The first phase of short-term debt cycle, spending continues to increase funded by credit and prices start to rise. When the amount of spending and income goes beyond the production of goods, the price rises. When the price rises, we call it the inflation. So central bank does not want the inflation to go beyond a level. We all know that inflation is not good beyond a level. And they control the inflation by taking measures to reduce spending. How they do it is, again we had explained earlier, by increasing the interest rate. With higher interest rate, fewer people can afford to borrow money. So spending lowers, prices go down, and this is called deflation. Economic activity decreases and leading to recession. If the recession becomes severe and inflation is no longer a problem, the central bank reduces the interest rate for everything to pick up again. So again borrowing becomes cheaper, spending increases, the cycle continues. In the short term debt cycle, spending is constrained only by the willingness of lenders and borrowers to provide and willingness of the lenders and borrowers to provide and receive credit. When the credit is easily available, there is a economic expansion, and otherwise, if it is not available, then it creates a recession. This cycle, as explained above, is primarily controlled by the central bank, though through interest rate regulation. This short-term debt cycle lasts for, like I earlier mentioned, say from 5 to 8 years and happens over and over again over decades. Note that bottom and top of each cycle finish with more growth than the previous cycle and with more debt. So you can see a rising curve, but the curves are up and down. This is because the people push it instead of paying back debt on time, which is obviously a human nature. Because of this, over long periods of time, debts rise faster than income, creating long-term debt cycles. So earlier we had discussed about the short-term debt cycle. Now this is creating a long-term debt cycle. The lenders lend even more after this, with more debts, since the spending is at its peak. The assets like real estate, flats are at its peak prices. Stock market is in a boom. This leads to a bubble. But still, the income also has been growing along with the rising debts. Let's call the ratio of debt to income as the debt burden. So long the income level rises, the debt stays manageable, because debt is basically serviced again by the income. Asset values soar. People borrow even more to buy these assets as the investments, causing their prices to rise even higher. People feel wealthy. So even with rising debt, as the income and asset as well is rising, helps borrowers creditworthy for a long time. Because the assets appreciate means they have the collateral which is having a higher value. So the lenders are happily lending the money to the so-called borrowers who are creditworthy. This doesn't continue ever. Over decades, the accumulated increasing debt burden, and hence at some point the debt repayment increases faster than the income, forcing the spending to cut down. Lower spending means lower income, making people less credit worthy, and hence the borrowings go down. Debt repayments increases even more, reducing spending even more. Cycle reverses itself, creating long-term debt peak. Debt burden have simply become too high. For US and much of the other nations in the world, this happened in 2008, so-called housing bubble. In 1989, this happened in Japan as well. Even back in 1929, this happened in US, similar to what happened in 2008. Now the economy becomes deleveraging. In deleveraging, people cut spending, incomes fall, credits disappear, asset prices drop, banks get squeezed, stock market crashes, social tensions rise, and whole thing starts to feed on its the other way. As income drops, borrowers get squeezed, and they are no longer creditworthy and hence unable to borrow more to make debt repayments. So they are forced to sell the assets. So all of the borrowers rush to the market to sell their assets, and hence the stock market collapses. Like you remember the working of the stock market, which I explained earlier. If the supply is more to the market, the demand goes down. So the cost of the assets, even the stocks, goes down. So it becomes cheaper and the market falls. Real estate market tanks and the banks get to trouble as the asset prices drop. The value of the as the asset prices here is dropping, the value of the collaterals of the borrowers also drop, making them even less creditworthy. People feel poor, credit rapidly disappears, less spending means less income, again means less wealth, again it leads to less credit, less borrowing, and so on. So it's a vicious cycle. This appears similar to recession. Only thing is that the interest rate can't be lowered to save the day by the central bank. Unlike in a short-term debt cycle as explained above, that lowering interest rate promotes borrowing, since the interest rate are already lower and soon hits 0%. So the stimulation ends. In US in 2008, the interest rate had hit zero while deleveraging during the housing bubble crisis. The difference between a recession and a deleveraging is that in deleveraging, the debt burden have become too big that with lower interest rate it cannot be relieved. Lenders realize that the debts have become too large to be fully paid back. Borrowers have lost ability to repay the debt since the collaterals have lost value. Lenders stop lending, borrowers stop borrowing, economy becomes non-credit worthy just like an individual. Now that how to overcome the deleveraging and what are the possible ways of recovering from the deleveraging, this we will discuss in the next session. Happy investing.